Running a sales team underneath the most ideal circumstances is still a challenge. Now imagine running a sales team in a pandemic. Well, I was having this conversation with my friend Asa, and we were just talking on LinkedIn, and then we took the conversation to a phone, and I was like, bro, why don't we just make this into a podcast episode? And that's exactly what we did. And he breaks down how he led a team and how you can continue to lead a great team of BDRs and SDRs, even when you're facing some challenging circumstances. This was right before we went into the pandemic, but the principles still apply. Hey, it's good stuff. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have a good friend of ours. His name is Asa, and Asa is going to talk to us about how he has led a team of BDRs and SDRs, and especially how we can lead that team right when we're going into challenging times. He's going to share with you some strategies that's worked for him over the years. If you're watching us for the first time here on TSE TV, what I'd like for you to do is to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because what that's going to do, every time we produce a great episode like this, you're going to be notified. Especially hit that little bell so you can hear the chime, man. It goes ding, whatever that sound makes. But the point is, you'll get the notification, you'll be the first to know, and I would be super excited to have you in that community. Anyways, I won't take up much of the time. We're going to dive straight into the episode with Asa, and we're going to continue to have a fantastic episode. Go ahead and listen up. Welcome to the show, Asa.
Hey, Donald. Great to be here.
Man, I'm excited to talk to you. And folks are listening to this episode. They're like saying, well, how did you come up with this, figure out to do this wonderful topic right now? Well, it wasn't necessarily planned. Asa and I were on a call, and it was going so well, and he's delivering so much value. I'm even in my BYU t-shirt. I went for a run, an exercise this morning. And I'm still dressed like this, but I wanted to get him on a call because I figured there's a lot of great insights that he can share as a sales leader who worked with a team of AEs and BDRs, and a lot of these SDRs and BDRs right now are looking for ways how they can be successful going through these challenging times. But before we dive into all that fun stuff, man, Asa, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do, some of your experiences?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's great to speak with you finally. I think we've been meaning to hop on this conversation or just chat for 2 years now. Initially meeting through LinkedIn, but yeah, great to finally catch up. During a time where a lot of us are able to catch up. So my background, I've been in sales for 15 years, primarily in the tech space, SaaS space, leading high growth startups, both as an individual contributor and in sales management. Most recently, I'd been leading the sales org at Linux Academy, where we're experiencing hyper growth, and that was on the tail end of the last 5 years me spending in leading sales teams, both SDR, sales ops, and account executives from enterprise, SMB, and mid-market reps across the board. So, you name a person in sales in a sales org, I probably touch them in some way and help manage them in some way.
So you help them all. What would you say, looking at it from an organizational standpoint as a sales leader, what was the biggest challenge that you face, just even pre-corona, as you're leading a team with your account executives and BDRs?
Yeah, sure. So most recently, I think a big one was keeping the team motivated and through difficult times, right? And keeping the focus on being able to help the companies that actually need the help, right? So staying focused and not spreading the net too wide, and staying focused on really just helping the companies that we can help. So that I think that was the big thing that we were focused on, with the rise of the coronavirus. Prior to that, before coronavirus is, is your typical things. Just, I think making sure that, SDRs are doing the right things to get in front of enough people and provide value and build intrigue. And then on the AE front is just making sure that, we're not, too product focused. I think keeping our AEs away from just selling the product and actually focusing on a business problem, something that I find myself having to spend a lot of time on, even with the most senior sellers, in today's world. So those are some of the top challenges I think I've focused on, both pre-corona and post-corona.
With such a huge, I mean, you had a team of inside sales, your SDRs slash BDRs, your reps there internally, like one of the things that we talk a lot about is personalization, as well as only so much you can personalize, especially when you're doing you're casting a wide net. Like in their case, obviously you have your focus group, but they still their job is still a numbers game in some way, shape, or form. How are you doing that? Were you having them like using tools like outreach.io to reach out to a mass number with an automations in that, or were they doing some, phone calls and personalized emails? What were you guys doing?
Yeah. So when I first got to my most recent SDR team that I was overseeing, when I first got there, it was kind of like spray and pray. A lot of email templates, using the sales enablement tool or sales engagement tool, Outreach, or we were using SalesLoft, and using it in not the best way. Lots of email templates, sending mass emails out on a daily basis. Lower on the call volume side, and kind of like hiding behind the computer, I found a lot. So we needed to change that for sure. We had a pretty good idea of who our ideal buyer was, but we had to tighten that up even more. So that's the first thing that I always encourage and spend a lot of time on when I come in to a team, is just spending a ton of time understanding your different ideal buyer profiles, and segmenting based on those. And so what we did, and where we started to see a lot of success, is just pure segmentation, right? So we had a pretty good influx of marketing generated leads that were coming in. And most companies that I've worked for, I've been lucky, has had a pretty good solid marketing org where we've had a healthy flow of marketing generated leads coming in, but that's not always there. So that'll dry up at some point, for maybe not for long, but there's always going to be a point where some of the marketing stuff dries up. So keeping outbound in the motion as well, and being able to plan your day, being religious about planning your day and having cadences ready to go, based on marketing generated and outbound, but also we would segment based on title. So we had messaging for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And the way we thought about tiers was by title, not so much by company size. And so that started to help us really focus. And one of the things that I really preach with the team is like, let's make sure before we walk out for the day, we know what we're going to do coming in the next day. Because I was finding too that they were spending a lot of time planning their day, doing research, pulling lists, getting things into SalesLoft. We'd use Discover.org, and Zoom Info for a lot of our data, and then obviously LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So spending a lot of time at the end of the day planning for the previous day. So when you walk into the office, you're excited and really confident that you're going to be able to walk away and secure, a really quality meeting that day based on the plan that you set up the day before. So those are some of the things that we were doing to kind of ensure success.
I couldn't agree with you more about that bottom half of your day. I mean, I feel, go back to the Abraham Lincoln quote, which I am pretty sure I'm going to butcher, but the essence of it, Abraham Lincoln said, you give me 6 hours to cut down a tree or something like that, I'll spend like 80% of that day sharpening. Somebody's like, Donna, you're killing a quote. We'll put the right one in the show notes. But the concept is there too. I mean, you get it. Like, you have to come to the table prepared. And I feel when I was in a BDR, I was working in a company in Boca doing inside sales at that point, and I learned that late in the game. But when I finally got it, I started doing it, and it became very effective for, especially when I became an AE, because I needed to, instead of coming in the morning and trying to at 8 o'clock or at 8:30, you have, after you're sitting at the, in the cafeteria or the dining room, whatever, with your teammates and kicking a breeze, like before you jump and get going, next thing you know, it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And it's like, where did they go? And now you're trying to catch up, and as opposed to have that plan. But I encourage my team, we do a 4:30 p.m. to start planning out the next day. Well, we do a weekly plan. So you encourage them to do a weekly plan, maybe like on Friday afternoon, sometime late Friday. And then, what are your big appointments for the next week? And then now each day you can just do a quick follow-up and prepare to make sure everything is in line, that you know what you're doing. So I really love that strategy that you're sharing there. But you mentioned several things in there. You're using like Discover.org and things like that. So these BDRs who are listening, that's how you were getting your leads at that point, in addition to your marketing folks. So they're outbound. They were hunting those through Discover.org, and also through Navigator.
Exactly. Yeah. So we had our marketing generated leads that were coming in based on events or content that people were engaging with. Then we had our list that we were creating either directly from Discover.org, ZoomInfo, or going from LinkedIn, building lists, and then looking up info in Discover.org, ZoomInfo, and then pushing into our CRM. We were using Salesforce. And then we'd go from Salesforce into SalesLoft. So you can see how there's, a lot of ways to get distracted there. So planning was so necessary because you walk out at the end of the day, this feeling like you didn't get anything done. So it's really important. I always think back to when I first started selling, and it was just the news. Like I used to sell job ads when I first got into inside sales. And we have to spend so much time combing through the newspapers to find the ads and the people and the number of who we were going to call. But one of the first things they taught me in onboarding back then was like how to scour the newspaper, how to find things, how to get things ready, how to plan that, and then walking in and not sitting down and making my 60 calls. But I knew who I was going to call. And I feel like we've gotten away from that. We get so focused on training on product and and learning our buyer and, doing these things that are really important. But we really forget to teach people how to, bait the fish and pull, set up the hook, set up the tackle, so that you're ready to, cast, when the time's right.
Love that, man. Well, let's fast forward. We have some BDRs and SDRs listening to this, and some sales leaders, and they're frustrated right now because they're thinking, well, the game's changed. The game has changed a little bit. We still need to sell. Business still needs to operate. I don't see anyone stopping their business, like as far as the sales force, for the most part. They're still having them to do work. But how? Like, I'm your team. I'm your rep right now, and I'm on your team. And I'm coming to you and I'm like, boss, man, Ace, I don't know what I'm doing. This is crazy. No one's answering their phone. I can't get in touch with anybody. Coach me. What are you going to coach me on? What are you going to do to help me as a BDR, SDR to still hustle or still find success right now?
Yeah, for sure. So definitely no one's picking up the phone, I think you got to always be multi-threading, right? So I want to make sure that you are using all the appropriate channels where your buyers are, for sure. And you're not just single threading with just the phone or just email or just LinkedIn. So I think that's definitely important. One thing that we switched, and for my team, it wasn't too much of a shift, right? Because I've always believe that you should be leading with value and leading with empathy, when you're reaching out to these buyers, and not so much, asking for an appointment right out of the gate, but more so providing an insight or providing something that's going to be helpful, and trying to start the conversation that way. And I've always,
Give me an example of one that you guys were doing to start the conversation when you were leading with empathy, or how did you guys?
Sure. So we pulled, say, a report down from, maybe it was CIO.com or Gartner or something like that, an insights-driven report that maybe, we were really, because we're on the pulse of, this type of thing, we were able to pull down and we create some sort of content that, pulled out, some key points within that. And we'd send that out. We'd send them an article. We'd say, hey, I see you're focused on X, Y, Z. I found this article. There's a part in here that talks about X. Thought you might be interested in that. Here you go. And let me know if you have any questions or where you're thinking about. We're talking to a lot of customers about this type of thing and helping them overcome challenges. So happy to help, right? So coming from a place of helping always, and so that's always how we would go to. That's what our delivery method was on SDR. So with the COVID, our approach didn't have to change too much. Just being even more empathetic, I think. And we really wanted to make sure we stayed away from getting into this is crazy times. So that's one thing that I was coaching on, like, don't give in, like, understand this is where, this is a crazy time, but don't give into that, right? Stay focused on the business and the problems and challenges that they're likely facing. And if you can help with that, then share information and share ways that you can help with that without mentioning your product or company.
Yeah.
And so not much of a shift, but I think the biggest change for us was what I would say is, like, who are you going after? Like, do you know what companies you're actually calling? If you're going after, SaaS businesses, you're not going to go after a SaaS company that's selling to the restaurant industry right now, right? Because they might be a SaaS business, but they're not closing a bunch of deals right now, just given the situation, right? So make sure you're not calling that person. There's another thing that we had to make sure we were taking a look at and thinking about. So again, that prep was even more important, when we were going out and doing these things. So that was the meat of it. Also, I think, for sales leaders, we always think about this, like, personalization at scale. How can we do this? But we've always got our number that we have to hit. So it's kind of hard for us to hit pause and actually think about how to execute on that. But I think this is a time where we can actually do that. Like, it should be somewhat of a comfort, of a cushion, where you're able to actually say, let's actually think about, I've always wanted to do personalization really, really well. This is a really good time to take a pause and actually think about how you can do that for your market.
Let's talk through it. Again, I'm your BDR. I'm here at the office with you. Well, no, I'm not. I'm remote because we can't be together.
Yeah.
But you're telling me on this idea. You're like, DK, I feel right now we can do a little bit more personalization. What's something you would encourage me to do that you probably wouldn't have been easy to do when you need to hit some of these bigger numbers? But what's some things that you would tell me to do right now?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it comes back to the research part, right? So understanding what their company is doing, if it's, if it is a certain industry where there's some challenges. So I think it goes back to, like, that ideal buyer profile, but also ideal company profiles. If you don't have that buttoned up and know it really, really well, then stop what you're doing and go and study that and know it like the back of your hands.
Yeah.
I think that it always starts there. Again, we jump to the product so fast. So if you don't have that locked in, here's the time to take a break and go and actually learn that. I think is really important. Once you have that, start reading, what your buyers are probably reading right now. I encourage my teams always to do that. Like, we'll do book clubs about what our buyers reading. I mean, I love sales books and how to crush quota and how to be, do all these things in sales, but I really think we need to be spending more time, reading what our buyers are reading. And if you do that, then it's going to help with your outreach and your personalization, because you're going to actually be able to, really ask questions that are going to get them thinking about the way they're doing current things. Hopefully you can teach them a new way of going about that. So when I'm thinking about personalization, I'm starting with, all right, what's the company I'm calling? What are challenges that they're probably facing, as it relates to, what I'm doing here? Who am I calling? Is this a practitioner? Is this, a C-level individual? That's going to change my language a lot, right? You might just really be focused on, solving pain points of a day-to-day situation, when you're talking to a practitioner. Whereas if you're going after a VP, then you're changing the messaging to be much more, problem-centric, overcoming big business challenges, like managing a remote workforce or scaling your team, in a certain way that that needs to change from the way you've typically done it. So you have to think about who you're going after there. And then I think there's a human touch as well now. Is more important than ever, right? You can't sound like you're creating templates or, I just think you have to be really, really genuine and let your personality shine right now, without, again, getting sucked into the craziness. Less templates, more taking time to understand what's going on in your environment, and then having a genuine approach in your outreach. We were finding that most recently at LinkedIn was our best channel. I think it's probably for obvious reasons. People are slowing down. They're looking for that connection in a remote environment. So we're finding a lot of good conversations getting started on LinkedIn right now, doing all those things that I just mentioned.
Man, this is awesome. If there's anything else, if there's one other piece of advice you'd give to a sales leader or a sales rep right now who is listening to this episode and she or he are just, they got excited from what things that you shared. They felt comfortable with some of these ideas, but they still have that little nagging uncertainty about moving forward. What's that one piece of advice you'd give them to help them get some comfort as they're going out doing their job?
Be grateful that they have a job, right? Be excited that you have an opportunity to still make an impact. If you still have a job, there's a reason why you have a job. So when you wake up in the morning and you're thinking about what you're grateful for, I think that should be on the top of everyone's list that's going out and hitting, and hustling on the sales side. And hopefully that motivates you to do the right thing and try your best to make things happen every single day. It's going to be tough, right? We're all in sales. We know it's a grind. We just have to grind through this, like anything else that we've had to grind through, in our sales career, right? We all go through droughts. We all have our ups and downs. This is going to be a challenging time, but be really grateful, I think, that you have a gig and that you're able to go out and be empathetic and provide value to your buyers. I think is really important right now.
Hey, so if folks out there listening to this want to get in touch with you, but what's the best way for them to go about doing so?
LinkedIn. Yeah, I think LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I haven't been the best, most active on Twitter. LinkedIn's my channel, man. That's where I'm at.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being willing to share some tips and to be on our episode today. And thank you so much, and wish you and your family all the best and safety during this time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Donald. And to you and yours as well.
Thank you. Boom. Look at you, man. That was our good friend Asa. If you have not connected with them already, I want you to go down to the bottom of this episode. You can see all the information down there and check him out. Connect with him on LinkedIn, connect with him on other social platforms, see some of the great things that he's doing. Email him, contact him. He's a great dude to know and a great friend to have in your corner. Highly, highly, highly recommended as well. If you heard something today from the episode that can benefit you, I want you to go ahead and share it. But also, what I'd like for you to do, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or any of the podcast directory. If you're watching us on TSE TV, go ahead and hit subscribe as well and hit the chime. So we want to make sure you get notified whenever we produce a great episode. What I'd like for you to do as well is to check out our friends over at Crumble. I cannot keep singing these guys' praises enough because the tool is absolutely amazing. It's simple, and you don't need a technology specialist to help you set up your CRM. Use Crumble, and super simple. Start off using a free plan, and as you grow, you can go ahead and build onto their other plans. But I definitely recommend you check out the tool. Again, it's Crumble. CRMBLE.com/TSE. Again, CRMBLE.com/TSE. Tell them Donald sent you. As always, I want you to succeed. I want you to find more of those ideal customers. I want you to know what to say when you reach out to them. I want you to be able to have those questions and the thoughts and ideas prepared. I want you to be able to close more deals. But naturally, I want you to go out each and every single day and do big things. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up in the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.